What's up, T-Tam fam? Happy Sunday, 28th of September. It's 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Today, episode 12, talking about integration. Um, realistically, you got to kind of have to look at it like this: is growth is improvement in breakthroughs. It's proven in how you live every single day, and how you do that reflects on your mindset, how you take care of yourself, what you say, what you don't say, what you do, what you don't do. Um, and what I'm going to try to convey throughout this episode is taking those small steps, with your daily change and apply it to your everyday life. So therefore, it becomes, less of a checklist. Excuse me, less of a checklist, into more of and from a checklist into consistency, so you can attain a consistent lifestyle. Um, and how that starts is, if you look at, episode 9 through 11 with the vision, the resilience, and the storms, all of the stuff that you use to weather all of that and deal with all of that, and what you've written down for you to see, what sort of goals have you outlined for yourself, and how many of those have you checked off. So, as you're going through, you know, you can see how you're integrating these. It's integration is about living those lessons daily, not just talking about them. So if you write down, hey, listen, I want to lose 5 pounds this month, then you are going to take the steps to lose 5 pounds in that month. Or, you know what, I am going to cut down on cursing. I have to, stop my cursing. So each day I'm going to tally how many times I curse. And each day it's going to get lesser and lesser and lesser. And really have these things in the forefront of your brain. Um, because once you start doing that, it just becomes, an everyday thing for you. Um, is what you want to try and create is a rhythm through your growth, and you will find that. And everybody's different. Like with me, I'm very structured when it comes down to certain things, especially as I've gotten older. Um, is I need that structure. Why? Because it helps keep me on the path that I'm walking. And, by doing that, then I know I'm doing right by myself. Excuse me. I'm doing right by myself, so I can improve, to be a better man, a better father, better boyfriend, just better overall person. So, and again, this is something that is going to take a period of time, take 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks, but eventually it's just going to lock right in, and you're going to be doing it without even realizing you're doing it because you've ingrained yourself, you've listened to yourself, all the notes that you've taken down from your journaling, your physical discipline, going to the gym, eating healthier, spiritually, your prayer, your faith, and that's something I've been exploring over the past few weeks, is to grow my spiritual side. Making sure you're checking in, those emotional check-ins with your loved ones, whether it be family, whether it be your husband, wife, kids, um, girlfriend, whatever, boyfriend, you name it. You want to have those check-ins simply because doing those small, repeatable actions warrants big, dramatic changes. So like I say, instead of taking one big goal and writing it down and being like, oh, I have to do this, and it's something where it's going to take a lot of your effort, and say you fail, that's going to be more of a killer than you taking, hey, you know what, this is what I'm going to do, break it down, excuse me, break it down, into small groups. What can I do each day to become better, and then check in with yourself at the end of the week and say, did I hit everything. So basically, you look at it like this: is you create a checklist for yourself, put it over 5 days. If you want to go seven, you can go seven, but put it over 5 days, um, and start from there. And each day, whether it's saying, hey, listen, you know, verbally tell the person that you love, how you feel. Hey, listen, I feel good. I feel bad. Can I talk to you about something? Something's been on my brain. You know, um, am I going to the gym? Um, do I have my workouts set up? Do I have my food prep set up? Do I have my clothes squared away? What days am I doing laundry? Just small, simple tasks like that, over time, just get ingrained in you. So you have to kind of, keep that in the forefront of your brain, because the more that you do this, the more repetitive nature you get into it, the bet the better off that you're gonna be. Honestly, at least that's my take on it. I'd love to hear yours. So let me know if you prefer small, you know, work through everything small to get through something, or like you have to take the big one. Oh man, I don't know what's going on with me this morning. Or you have to take one big one and try to do that because you look at that as more of a challenge. Let me know. Drop a comment. Um, you know, the thing is as you grow, you essentially and you integrate, you reshape aspects of you, your identity. It's not what you do, but you change into who you are. So if you say, listen, I want to be a better person, I want to be more kind, I want to, I want to be volunteer more, um, you will become that person, and people will see that. Especially people who you don't know, they'll see that immediately. But if you're going to, like, a long-term friend or family member, they'll be like, oh, no, no, I don't think so. But they'll see it over a period of time. Again, you have to stay consistent with it. Living daily growth, it creates trust, it creates stability, and it creates peace. Why? Because everything is mapped out for you. What you're doing to be, what are you doing to be a better employee? What are you doing to be a better husband? What are you doing to be a better wife, better man, better woman? All of that creates, that trust, that stability. And this is kind of, you know, even though I mentioned employee, this is really more for your personal life. And I tell you, when you actually start listening and you start understanding and you start asking questions and you start getting answers, like that's when things start to become more clear, at least in my opinion. Why? Because I need things in black and white. I don't take hints very well. Some hints, but um, you really kind of have to, start weighing certain things. Is if you ask a question and you get an answer, you have to accept that answer. Now, you may not agree with that answer, and that's fine. But as an adult, as a grown ass person, male or female, doesn't matter. It's okay to not want to agree with an answer that's given, but you have to understand why and get that reason. Hear from their perspective, because you asking that person that question, they have a different perspective than you do. So, just keep that in mind as you're going through your journey. Is trust, stability, and peace are crucial, absolutely crucial. Um, you have to know the difference between performing change and living change, right? And so this is where the honesty part comes into play. Truthfully, is once you start being honest with everything. I tell you, the amount of weight um, that gets pulled off of you is massive. Because in my experience, I found that people who tend to live in a world that's not reality, whatever it is that they've made up, you have to, you have to understand is they have to keep that story straight all the time. There can't be any deviations. Because if there's any deviations, people are going to pick up on it and then they're going to call them out. And a lot of these people are very smart, they're very good at what they do, but they have to keep up with these stories that they've created. As opposed to living the change, you physically writing something down, whether it be in your journal, whether it be on your vision board, um, whether it just be on a piece of paper. Hey, these are the things that I'm going to do. And you start doing those things. Now you're holding yourself accountable. And it's the truth. And here's the thing about the truth is truth doesn't lie. Truth will never lie. There's been plenty of people who I've been around and especially when it comes to playing sports or doing certain things, and I'm like, when was the last time you actually did some of this? It's, it's been a little bit. I haven't really done it in a while. But yeah, I can do it. I can do it. And they go ahead and do it, and they get hurt or they fail miserably. And then I'm just sat there and I'm just kind of befuddled because, like, I asked you this question, but yet they chose to lie and just to make themselves be better. But in the end, it didn't make them be better. It made them worse because they embarrassed themselves when all they had to do was just tell the truth. You know, um, the truth. It's gonna be a little cliche, but the truth will set you free. And I don't believe in hiding stuff. I don't believe in beating around the bush. I'm pretty direct to a fault simply because um, it's the only way that I see me getting clarity. And um, and that to me is the most important thing because then if I ask a question and I get an answer, now I can process it the way that I want to process because I've gotten a truthful answer to my question. And just understand that is that's important to me is being able to do that. But getting back to you know the performance aspect. Exactly. Think of it like that. It's a performance. Who performs? Actors and actresses, right? If you're not an actor, if you're not an actress, stop. Let them do their job. That's what they get paid to do. You don't get paid to do something like that. You have to take control of your actions and hold yourself accountable in all facets. Why? Because when you do that, your significant other will notice. I tell you, you know, they pick up on certain things, especially, depending on how long you guys have been, dating or how long you've been married. And when you start living your changes due to your growth, they'll notice and it'll be positive. And then that's where you kind of, that's where you're building that trust, that stability, that peace. Because now you're being transparent with them. And transparency, a lot of people are afraid of it. They don't like to. They for some reason they want to kind of hold things back. And I'll admit, I used to do that, 100%. Not gonna lie. Um, but it didn't get me anywhere. Once I started becoming transparent and involving in every sort of aspect, things gradually got better. Why? Because my girlfriend noticed the changes that I was making, the growth, and how serious I was, you know, and she appreciated that. So remember, as you integrate your small wins into your daily life, get ready for a big glow up. Why? Because people will see that. People will feel that. I'm a pretty big person when it comes to vibes. Like I can tell walking into a room Whether or not it's gonna be a good time, excuse me, or a bad time, because I can feel those vibes. No, not everybody can, but I'm just saying, is if you start living in truths, start being honest with yourself, start being honest with your significant other, things will, potentially improve. Or, you could stop lying to yourself if you've been in a relationship where, it's been one sided. You don't want that. It takes two to tango. Um, so, kind of keep that in, in the back of the brain. Um, yeah. Sorry, but it's just I'm thinking about certain things, so it's ruining my, kind of getting in my way of my train of thought. But back to the integration is is that integration is when growth stops being something you chase and becomes something you are. So keep that in mind as you go through this journey. Um, what I would like you to do is I'm inviting you, my viewers, to share one daily habit that you rely on for growth. One daily habit that you rely on for growth. Drop a comment, let me know. And with that being said, you know, continue to keep fighting the good fight. This isn't easy. This is a grind. This is one of the harder things that you will have to do throughout your life. But I'm telling you that once you figure it out, the lane, the road that was once filled with a whole bunch of speed bumps and potholes and craters and all that goes smooth and flat, like you're driving through the desert at 100 miles an hour. But keep on, I'm telling you. Keep putting in the work every single day to better yourself, because in the end, it's worth it. Next week we're going to be talking about legacy and impact, what you leave behind for others. So that will be episode 13 coming up in October. Wow, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Can't believe how fast September has gone by. I mean, really? Like everything's just like in a blink of an eye. We're already into coming up on calendar Q4. Like it's crazy, absolutely crazy. But hey, again, I appreciate everybody that watches, everybody that supports. Um, me in this journey. I know that I'm brand new at this, and try to get better each week. Some days, some weeks are better than others. But again, I am here for you, just to let you know that you're not alone. So what I want you to do is I want you guys to get up, go touch grass, go hang out. We're coming into fall here in New England, and it's getting nice and crisp outside. And get ready for apple picking, and you got Halloween, then you got Thanksgiving, then you got Christmas. Oof, Christmas. Already talking about Christmas, and the summer's barely over, right? But honestly, you know what? I thank you, my community, TTAM fam, for everything up until this point. I'm going to continue this journey, keep video logging, my journey, because I know it. I'm hoping that it's relatable on some aspects to you, and that's what I'm here for. Again, if you got any sort of comments, questions, drop them down under any of the videos. With that being said, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Time to get after it. See you next week.